Hello and welcome. My name is Raymond Dijoma and I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well as a property lawyer here in Nigeria. In this video, we're going to be talking about the remaining part of the 25 questions that you need to ask whenever you're buying properties in Nigeria. In the part one of this video, we've talked about 15 questions already. And in this part, we're looking at the last 10 questions. And it's basically the series of 25 questions you need to ask whenever you are buying properties in Nigeria. It is not land, as it were, not necessarily land, but properties that are built up, right? So these are very important questions you need to ask. And again, all of the questions may not apply to every property. Each property will determine what type of question you are asking, right? So we've looked at very important issues such as the issue. You just need to go back to watch the video and download it, download the content so that you can, before you come back to this particular video, because the way we outline the questions are really important, and you really need to watch the first part before you possibly continue with this part. Even though this is part two, this same video is also brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd, a real estate company registered here in Nigeria, and we are committed to it. That's why we take our time to put out such amazing content like this very one. We possibly could be in the feed telling you to come and buy something or marketing a product, but we decide to give you good content, good education as it relates to real estate, so that part of our mission really as a company is to be sure that we play a major role in eradicating scams and issues in the real estate sector in Nigeria. Because of course, the smarter you are, the knowledgeable you are enough to know that this is scam and this is not a scam, or this I should do this or I shouldn't do this. That's why we put out a lot of valuable content like this very one. And just in case you are still wondering why you should subscribe, that's enough reason to subscribe. So we encourage you to subscribe and stay in touch, and also turn on notifications so that you will be notified whenever we post amazing content like this very one. All right, so the 16th question that you need to consider asking whenever you're buying property in Nigeria is the question of, why is the person selling? Now, I'm going to bring in a couple of things into this question, and I will explain why. The reason why you should be asking the question of why is the person selling is important, and to us is important because it helps you determine some form of genuineness in the sale of the property. Now, as much as the person who is selling may not necessarily be honest or transparent if there is an issue, but as much as the person may not be honest, one thing it has done for us is that it helps us to corroborate certain things. So it's possible that we can ask Mr. A, who possibly is the wife and or the husband who owns the property, and he tells you that, oh, they are relocating out of Nigeria. And you don't even ask the questions almost immediately. In another 2 or 3 days, you can just find a way to, or somebody else can just find a way to reach out to the wife and say, oh, madam, or just in the course of a conversation, not necessarily the wife, but something like, why are you selling this property? This property is so fine. Why are you selling it? At that point, she tells you something else. When she tells you something else entirely, then there's a likelihood that something is wrong somewhere, right? So as much as that may not necessarily tell you that this is not genuine, but it simply already sends a message. You may not really get the point at its best, but it's something that has helped us, and it has helped us to uncover issues at the point of buying a property for a client, and that's why we are bringing it into this conversation. The 17th question that you need to ask, or you may want to consider asking whenever you're buying a property in Nigeria, this particular question comes in particularly when you're buying a furnished or finished apartment, or if you're buying property from somebody who most likely is possibly looking at relocating out of Nigeria. We've done a property transaction for a client in Port Harcourt that bought an entire duplex as well as AC, solar panel, the batteries, and some other very important things that were in the house. Now, we have to be clear on, are you buying just the house, or you're looking at buying both certain appurtenances attached to the house, right? So at the point of purchasing, you have to be clear on, are you buying all of this inclusive? And if you're buying all of this inclusive, you also have to also find a way to include it, even if it's as a schedule in the document. of transfer, right? So you need to ascertain what you are buying and the details of what you are buying. Number 18 is how long has the property been in the market? How long has the property been in the market? Looking at this question at the surface level, you may just assume that, oh, I mean, how does that work? But truth is, for us being in the business, it helps us to determine our negotiation power. Now, what that does basically is, if I know that this market has, for instance, just before doing this video, I saw a picture of a property that somebody sent to us from Port to market. Someone close to me sent it to us that, I mean, we should market the property. That was last year. But for some reasons, we didn't feel interested in putting the product in the market. And just before recording this video, I stumbled on, I was just scrolling through my timeline of Facebook and I saw that same building. I know I have seen that building from somewhere. I have to check that this building was in Port Harcourt. And I looked through it and I saw that the details that I had at the time, last year, over a year now, when the property was put out, is the same details that the property had. And like, yes, I've seen the property somewhere, and I was correct. Since we already know that this is the history of the property, or we have determined how long it has been in the market, it is already clear that the owner most likely will be desperate to sell it. So even though the owner is looking at 70 million, if you have somebody who has 50 million cash, the owner may take it. Because first, it has been old in the market, and the older it gets in the market, there's a likelihood that it is losing its purchasing or its selling value, as it were, right? Because nobody's staying there. It's losing touch of beauty. You understand what I mean? So basically, how old the property has been in the market helps negotiation, helps brokerage generally, right? So that's the 18th question. The 19th question is, how much are houses going for in the area? How much are houses going for in the area? But beyond the question of how much are houses going for in the area, you need to also determine what title those properties have. Now, you need to get this explanation because this is very important as it relates to this point I'm trying to make. You can have a property in the same estate, as a matter of fact, sharing boundaries with each other, right? And both of them are not the same price. They may be the same type of building, they may be built on the same day, they may be finished on the same day, they may have been commissioned on the same day, but they have different prices. And what can make that difference is the title. It is possible that Mr. A bought it at a right of occupancy level, while Mr. B, after buying at a right of occupancy level, upgraded his own to a certificate of occupancy. It is possible that Mr. A didn't have any legal title at all. All he had was a deed of assignment or a deed of transfer that basically was transactional based on and didn't follow the principles and provisions of the Land Use Act. While Mr. B had taken the extra step to apply for a certificate of occupancy and has gotten one. The moment that happens, even though both are in the same location, they can never be the same price. So the idea that we are asking or we're trying to share with you here is, yes, find out how much properties are going for in the area. But beyond finding out how much properties are going for in the area, try to be as specific as you can to determine if this man is offering me something with extra, even though they are the same look physically. So you need to be able to ascertain that, and it's very important that you involve your lawyer in most of for most of these questions. It's very important that you involve an expert who understands what goes on in the business. So the 20th question you need to ask is the question of accessibility. Is the place accessible? Right? Beyond accessible in the day, is it accessible at night? So you need to ask yourself the question of, who am I? Am I the type of person that works or leaves very early and comes back very late? Right? Because if you're the type of person that leaves very early and you have to wait, you live in a place where you have to wait till it's 6 a.m. before you come out, then that becomes a problem. If you live in somewhere where you can't access at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., then that becomes a problem. So the issue of accessibility is very important, and also for your tenant, right? It's also very important. As much as this point is valid at this level, there's another level to this point, especially if you're an investor, that I would quickly chip in this point so that you are clear on it. Now the point is, if you are an investor, you do not want to wait till there's 100% accessibility before you invest in that product or before you invest in that property. Because if you wait for complete accessibility and everything being intact, then you're going to buy it at a more expensive rate. The point is, if the property doesn't have very good access road yet, you can possibly buy it at say 40 million. But once there's complete access road, the road is tarred, everything makes sense, street light is there, then you most likely be buying it at say 70 million. So that's the difference for you as an investor. And I need you to take that point very importantly. Also, if you're an investor in land and not just properties, that's a very important point you need to consider. The 21st question you need to ask is the question of how serene is the environment. Now, you don't just look at this type of question for the afternoon or the day. You also have to look at it for night. If you are, in fact, for some persons who work at home, the question of how serene it is in the day is very important to them, because in some areas it is very calm in the day, and at night it's a club. But some other places it's very calm at night, and during the day it's something else. So you need to consider how serene the environment is before you buy into the property. And like I said, there are some of these questions that you don't ask the person you are buying from. You just ask around. You're driving to the place, just park by, bros, how far? I beg, you just ask your question. You get a honest response or review from whoever you are asking, right? So the 22nd question is, are there renovations to be made, and who will be responsible for those renovations? Are there renovations to be made? That sometimes you are buying property at a level where the owner had possibly abandoned it for a while, or possibly is looking at reselling it, haven't done one or two things there. At that point, you may want to look at the question of, definitely ask the question of, these renovations, am I the one doing them, or you want to do them? And let me advise you, if the person is going to do them, then it's important that the person does them before you make payment. Or assuming the person is hoping that you'll make a quick deposit and he or she will use the deposit to complete that payment, do the renovation, then you have to bring in a contract of sale that clarifies these issues. Because if you do not clarify them, then there's going to be an issue. There most likely will be an issue, right? So it's very important that you are clear on this. This really plays out very much when you are doing rentals, but there's no need to go to so much details about that. Number 23, the 23rd question you need to ask is this place strictly, you need to understand the use of the area or the type of properties that can be there. Most importantly, is it a strictly commercial area? Is it a residential area, or is mixed use? Right, so these are certain things you may want to consider. Is it one that I can convert, assuming I have something to do with it later on that is commercial related? So you need to ascertain that as well. And then the 24th question you will have to ask is, will it accommodate my family? If you have a family of 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, I mean, you need to be able to ask question, will it accommodate my family? And inside of that question, you need to ask if my wife will love this. Right, we had one client who wanted to surprise her husband by buying him a house. One of the things that we needed to really clarify is, what is the taste of the husband? What does the husband like? So the question of, will my children like this, or would my wife like this, is also very important. And the very last question you need to ask is, who is representing you? Who is your broker? Because assuming you are even representing yourself, or you're buying it directly from the people involved, then you also have to bring in professionals who will help you in the process of the purchase. Or if you are doing it through representative, possibly you are not living in Nigeria, or you're not within the state that you're buying the property, or even if you are there, the question of who is representing you, who is brokering the deal for you, or who is serving as your broker or representative is also very important. It's important that the person understands real estate, understands how these things play out, understand the value of properties, understand title, understand everything related to real estate. With the knowledge that the person has, the person can effectively and properly, professionally represent you in the purchase of that property. So altogether, the question of who is representing you is very, very, very important. And I think that's the last question that we are going to be putting out to you here in this particular video. Remember, there's a part 1 of this video, and in the part 1 we already addressed 15 questions that you would like to ask whenever you're buying property in Nigeria, and this part we did 10 other questions that you need to ask. So I encourage you to watch the part 1, and of course, when you are done, if you're yet to subscribe, do subscribe, because there's more from where this is coming from. We are committed to you. We are committed to bringing you the best of real estate, both the products, the knowledge, the education, and every other thing that you would love to get as far as real estate is concerned back here in Nigeria. Again, my name is Raymond Dijoma, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well as a property lawyer here in Nigeria. We'll see you in our next episode, the next video, where we are even bringing you more and more value.